Hi, friends. I know it has been a very long time, and I know I have no excuses other than to say that wedding planning sucks and I never want to do it again. The main point is that I am back and I missed making videos so much. I missed reading in general in this weird season of planning for a wedding. But that aside, I am here to talk to you about Stoner, John Williams Stoner. I decided to excitedly jump into this book to expose myself to American literature, and because I missed academia and the splendor of it that arrives only nostalgically when you look at it as part of the past. Tying into that last part, I chose Stoner because it I made Stoner mystical in my own head, and that's partly because it is a book on university life, first from a student's perspective, and then evolving as that student graduates into a life of teaching. Very quickly throughout this book, I came to find out that John Williams, through the honesty of his sentences, knows how to unravel gently what on the surface would have been written off as merely a mediocre life. It is so much more than mediocrity, my friends. This book has so many passages that sadly did not satiate my nostalgia and instead intensified it. We have, for instance, a passage where John Williams writes about Stoner. When he was much older, he was to look back upon his last 2 undergraduate years as if they were an unreal time that belonged to someone else, a time that passed not in the regular flow to which he was used, but in fits and starts. One moment was juxtaposed against another, yet isolated from it, and he had the feeling that he was removed from time, watching as it passed before him like a great unevenly turned diorama. He became conscious of himself in a way that he had not done before. And it's during this formative part of Stoner's life that John Williams talks about how he became aware for the first time of his loneliness. And so, even so, university life provided him with this quote, sometimes in the evenings, he wandered in the long open quadrangle among couples who strolled together and murmured softly. Though he did not know any of them, and though he did not speak to them, he felt a kinship with them. In the university library, he wandered through the stacks among the thousands of books, inhaling the musty odor of leather, cloth, and drying page as if it were an exotic incense. One of my favorite passages comes sort of in the middle of the book, where on page 100, Stoner is described as follows. As he worked on the room, and as it began slowly to take a shape, he realized that for many years, unknown to himself, he had an image locked somewhere within him like a shamed secret, an image that was ostensibly of a place, but which was actually of himself. So it was himself that he was attempting to define as he worked on his study, as he sanded the old boards for his bookcases and saw the surface roughness disappear, the gray weathering flake away to the essential wood and finally to a rich purity of grain and texture. As he repaired his furniture and arranged it in the room, it was himself that he was slowly shaping. It was himself that he was putting into a kind of order. It was himself that he was making possible. This comes later on in Stoner's life when he is already a university professor. But the very thing that made him latch onto a life of learning, into university life, was his fascination and admiration of one of Shakespeare's sonnets, which reads, that time of year thou mayst in me behold, when yellow leaves or none or few do hang, upon those boughs which shake against the cold, bare ruined choirs where late the sweet bird sang. In me thou seest the twilight of such day, as after sunset fadeth in the west, which by and by black night doth take away, death's second self that seals up all in rest. In me thou seest the glowing of such fire, that on the ashes of his youth doth lie, as the deathbed whereon it must expire, consumed with that which it was nourished by. This thou perceivest, which makes thy love more strong, to love that well which thou must leave ere long. It is so stunning to see that which propelled Stoner into a lifelong love of literature is also that which propels us as readers, as humans, ever forward. First comes youth's anchoring to a passion, a love, a fascination, and then comes that thing which all must endure, aging and the passage of time. On romantic love, we find the author writing, in his extreme youth, Stoner had thought of love as an absolute state of being to which, if one were lucky, one might find access. In his maturity, he had decided it was the heaven of a false religion toward which one ought to gaze with an amused disbelief. a gently familiar contempt, and an embarrassed nostalgia. Now, in his middle age, he began to know that it was neither a state of grace nor an illusion. He saw it as a human act of becoming, a condition that was invented and modified moment by moment and day by day by the will and the intelligence and the heart. Uh, I don't know. I hope you have the same feeling I had when I finished the book. I felt like I quietly imploded. It was so damn good. A note on the writing. Stoner has a very quiet, unassuming style, a style that allows him to take very heavy, abstract ideas that we all encounter about love, duty, patriotism, one's decision to go to war, aging, education, and through correct punctuation and in a very matter-of-fact way, he manages to gently and very tenderly, very effortlessly ground the heaviness of these ideas into something softer and more intimate. The character himself, Stoner is not a fighter. He lets himself be trampled on in life. He acts as a voluntary doormat in many situations throughout his life, whether it be encounters with fellow colleagues or his very complicated and odd relationship with his wife. He basically takes all the blows that he has dealt, which means that more than once I just wanted to shake him into action, to romanticize and to idealize and to go the extra mile for him when he didn't, to add color to the life that he had merely accepted as ordinary and as his burden, but also that very life that he secretly marked with expectations that perhaps at the end he was too passive to fulfill. Of life, Stoner is plagued in a sense by the question that he repeatedly asks himself towards the end of the book, and that is, what did you expect? It's a question that can plague us at any point in life, really. And we learn through this book that a small part of us, of our otherwise ordinary, perhaps meaningless selves, whether it be tangibly or intangibly, that small part of us remains in an otherwise ignorant world, and that must mean something. All in all, beautiful, stunning book. I am so thankful it found its way to me, and I hope it now finds its way to you. Until next time, bye.